It's time. It's time. It's iPoP-E's Top 10 Best in the World of Pro Wrestling 2014 time. If you don't already know, I've loved pro wrestling since I was younger. Now, for those iPoP-E viewers out there baffled by pro wrestling's appeal, I'll be addressing that in an upcoming episode. But now let's count down the 10 things that really made fans pop in 2014. At number 10, originally intended to cover the reconciliation between Warrior, that was his legal name, look it up, and the WWE after decades of bad blood. This documentary was supposed to end with his induction to the WWE Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, Warrior passed away just days after his induction, which is reflected in this touching and frank documentary. I'm not going to stand here and say that Warrior was a saint. We've all learned that many of our childhood heroes are far from it. But the 8-year-old in me, the one who used to paint his face and run around every time his music hit, the one who jumped up and down when he beat Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 6, for him, it was awesome. This man made his debut in the business with the Warrior, and now, decades later, he finally made his debut in the WWE. I'm not gonna lie, this would have been the greatest thing ever 10 to 15 years ago. My initial reaction was, he looks kind of old. And if you look at it through a Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns kind of lens, it worked out pretty well. Number 8 also took place the night of Sting's debut. After revolving hot and cold pushes, Dolph Ziggler finally had his moment, leading his Survivor Series team to victory facing 3-to-1 odds. Ziggler is a workhorse, and it's nice to see that rewarded with such an important spot. Hopefully the WWE doesn't revert to its standard practices and ice water bucket challenge his current push. Will Ziggler win the Royal Rumble and face the WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31? Stranger things had happened, including number 7. After leaving the WWE to become a huge star in UFC, Lesnar returned with more credibility than ever before, and the WWE bet huge on him in 2014. First, by having him do the unfathomable and beating The Undertaker, defeating his 21-0 streak. That means 21 years The Undertaker was undefeated at WrestleMania until Brock Lesnar. 21 years. Look, we all know this is staged, but no one saw this coming. I mean, the arena was silent, and the facial expressions. And then at SummerSlam, the unthinkable continued when Lesnar defeated John Cena in the most lopsided title match in modern history. It was kind of like that scene in Superman Returns where Superman gets stabbed with kryptonite and gets his ass kicked. Except unlike the Man of Steel, Cena didn't come back and AA an entire island of kryptonite. Aside from the rematch, Lesnar's limited contractual appearances has led to the WWE World Heavyweight Champion being off of TV the vast majority of 2014. And with rumors that Lesnar wants to make a UFC return once his contract expires with the WWE after WrestleMania 31, expect to see much more of the champ in 2015. Now, these type of rumors are normally addressed by us wrestling fans online, but sometimes they're addressed by some of the biggest stars in wrestling history, in the form of number 6. Jim Ross and Chris Jericho successfully joined the likes of Stone Cold Steve Austin with fantastic interviews and insights from the men and women in the wrestling trenches. And these are not just niche podcasts. The aforementioned podcasts often make iTunes Top 10 podcasts every single week. There is so much history and behind-the-scenes knowledge shared on these shows, it makes you want to go back and watch those matches. Now, if there was only an easy and affordable way to watch all of that content. Pro wrestling has long had an underappreciated role in the history of broadcast television, pay-per-view, and now online streaming. In the works for years, the WWE Network finally saw light in 2014 and serves as a Netflix for the massive pro wrestling history that the WWE owns. But the biggest thing about the network is how it's forever changing the pay-per-view. What used to cost $50 a month, now you get included in your $9.99 a month subscription. While it's a massive deal for fans, it has thrown a wrench into the income of the company and its performers. Now, the WWE is not the only network in the wrestling business. This year, the El Rey Network debuted our number 4. To say I love Lucha Underground would be a lucha understatement.
Oh my god!
The show, which is produced in English, wonderfully updates Mexican wrestling, also known as Lucha Libre. Backstage segments and the origins of the wrestlers are filmed like widescreen action movies with awesome lighting and music. The in-ring work is fast and high-flying, and the tone is serious and dangerous, which is a nice contradiction to the current tone of the WWE. But at the same time, it reminds me of why I fell in love with professional wrestling in the first place as a kid. It's fresh, it's exciting, and it deserves as many ojos on it as possible. Speaking of deserving, does number 3 fit that bill? The answer is yes. After busting his ass in the independent scene for years, it never seemed that Daniel Bryan, aka Bryan Danielson, would ever make it into the WWE, let alone be their top guy. There's a reason he was known as the best wrestler in the world while ruling the independents. And it didn't take very long for the WWE fans to also see that. So with just a month before WrestleMania 30, Bryan was added to the biggest show of them all. He went over not only Triple H, but also beat Randy Orton and Batista in a triple threat match to become the WWE Heavyweight Champion. To see one of our guys make it, to see him holding the belts associated with Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, holding them high above his head, I'm not gonna lie, there were tears. Now, one of the many factors that may have led to Bryan's beautiful WrestleMania moment comes in at number 2. And boy, does he have our attention now. He may have wrestled his last match in January of 2014, but the events following sent shockwaves throughout the world of professional wrestling. Burned out and no longer loving the business he dedicated his life to, Punk walked away from the WWE and just fell off the grid. There was always a hope among the fans, including myself, that Punk would show up at Mania or at one of the Monday Night Raw tapings in his hometown of Chicago. Then on Thanksgiving Day, with zero notice, Colt Cabana's The Art of Wrestling podcast released an in-depth interview with CM Punk. He opened up about why he left the WWE and plans to never work for them again. 2 weeks after the interview dropped, Punk showed up at UFC 181 and dropped another pipe bomb, signing with UFC to fight in 2015. Now imagine if there was only some place where in-ring work was rewarded, where long-term storylines panned out logically, where every wrestler on the card had a spot, where the female wrestlers are given the proper time and support to show that they are just as good as their male counterparts. I mean, just imagine if there was a place like that, and imagine how funny it would be if it was actually produced by the WWE. You don't have to imagine it, because it exists, and it's the #1 thing in wrestling for 2014. Earlier I said the biggest thing about the network is how it forever changed pay-per-view, and that's true, but the best thing on the network is NXT. Much like the Groundlings and Second City Comedy are developmental systems for SNL, NXT is the developmental system for the WWE. Now, as a developmental system, you'd expect it to be full of inexperienced talent and not nearly as exciting as the big leagues. Instead, you have a weekly 1-hour show plus occasional 3-hour specials that blows every other wrestling product out of the water. Now, this may be due to the fact that WWE mastermind Vince McMahon is leaving the creative control of NXT in the hands of Triple H. In a sense, Vince McMahon is now the George Lucas of wrestling, and I guess that makes Triple H the J.J. Abrams. Now, while Triple H may have been one of the bad guys in CM Punk's struggle with the company, you have to give credit where credit is due. Thank you, Hunter. NXT is wrestling, and it deserves its rightful place next to the Raw brand, not below it. That's our top 10. What did you guys think? Did we miss something? Did we blow something out of proportion? Let us know via the Facebook page, Twitter, or the comment section down below, and we'll read your response in an upcoming episode. You too can be part of the iPoP-E universe. All you have to do is subscribe. As a subscriber, you'll get a notification from YouTube every time a new episode is released. And we have upcoming episodes covering WrestleMania Access and WrestleMania 31 live from Santa Clara, California, so you don't want to miss those episodes. And second, one lucky viewer will win a WWE Official Program. All you have to do to enter to win is post this video, share it, post it on Facebook, via Twitter, Reddit, websites, your favorite wrestling forum. Share it, let us know, entered. Visit iPoP-channel.com for more information. Until next time, I'm Hank Romero, and this is iPoP-E. Don't forget to subscribe, and check out iPoP-E's other top 10 lists of 2014 and prior episodes. They are just a click away.